Hey everybody, good morning. Justin Dunaway here, coming at you live from Portland, Oregon. Right off the bat, you have to excuse the creepy lighting. It kind of looks like we're doing haunted campfire stories. We had some weird windstorm, and I've been out of power since about afternoon yesterday, so we're in my pitch black house lit by whatever battery powered lights I can find. So just kind of bear with me. So before I get started in today's topic, I just want to remind everybody that the 13th cohort of Persistent Pain Comprehensive Management starts on Monday. So if you have any interest in that 8-week deep dive into all things persistent pain, be sure to hop over to our website and check it out. So today I want to talk about, today's topic, is it enough exploring self-assessment? I want to dive a little bit into not just what we're doing, but how we think about what we're doing and how that might affect outcomes, might affect prognosis and things like that. So you'll hear me very often say that beliefs and expectations are the foundation that outcomes are built on. I wholeheartedly believe this, and I typically think about it and talk about it in a way that we're really looking to assess maladaptive beliefs and negative expectations, because we know that these things change pain, they change physiology, they change outcome, and we talk about leveraging these things in the clinic to make a difference in within session change and then long-term change as well. But where does mindset fit in? And when I think about mindset, what I'm really thinking about is how does the individual really perceive themselves or perceive the things they're doing or assess the things they're doing. When you look in the mirror, how do you feel about the stuff you're doing? How do you feel about your behaviors? How do you feel about your health? How do you feel about your exercise? Are these things healthful? Are these things positive? Are these things negative? Do we even think about them at all? Do we assess them in our patients? Is it important? This is what I want to dive into today. So we're going to start with a really cool study. It's a little bit old now, 2006 by DeSalvo. But what they did is it was a big meta-analysis going through the research. And they pulled out 22 studies that looked at longevity and a single health questionnaire. And this is in all of our intake forms, or it's in all of our documentation, but it's the simple rate your health. Excellent, good, fair, poor. And they wanted to see if these self-assessments had any correlation with longevity. What they found was absolutely fascinating. So 22 studies looking at this, and if we compare each tick box to excellent, what they found is that if you rated your health as good, when compared to the people that rated their health as excellent, you got about 140% increased risk of all-cause mortality. If you checked poor, if you checked fair, that jumps up to about 170%. And if you checked poor, it's almost a 200% increased risk of all-cause mortality compared to those people that checked the excellent box. Now, at this stage, it's easy to say this. Well, Justin, that makes sense, right? The people that are unhealthy know they're unhealthy. That's fair. I mean, it's a little iffy when you say I checked the good box and I have 140% increased risk to the people that checked excellent. But clearly the people that checked fair and poor believe they're unhealthy, and they probably are unhealthy, and they know that. But where it gets really interesting is they pulled out a couple of studies that controlled for comorbid illness. And then they just ran an analysis on that data as well. So controlling for comorbid illness, so all things equal, if you marked poor compared to the people that marked excellent, again, controlling for comorbid illness, you still had a 174% increased risk of all-cause mortality. Poor illness beliefs seem to correlate with illness. Even if the illness isn't there, poor illness beliefs, poor health beliefs seem to correlate with decreased longevity. That's a powerful, powerful statement. So when we think about this stuff, when we look at our intake forms and we see those boxes checked, is this just a checkbox? How do we think about that stuff? Even beyond prognosis, because this gives us some information on that now, but even beyond prognosis, how are we using this? Can we use this as a tool? Can we use this as a way to not only assess behaviors, but assess feelings around behaviors? Now think about it like this. John, you marked fair on that. Unpack that a bit for me. Why'd you mark fair? What would need to be different for you to mark good? And you might start to hear some things, right? When you ask John why he marked fair, he may start to talk about his diet, his sleep, his lack of exercise, his job. He may give us some familial history stuff. He may give us a list of pathologies. This gives us a lot of information, one, on what John believes drives health, and two, where his locus of control is at. I say, John, what could be different? What would need to be different for you to move from fair to good? Now John might start talking about some treatment targets, some things that he think might change. So John, if you change those things, how do you think you would feel? And now maybe he starts to give us some information there as well. And now we flip the script a bit. John, you tell me that, that your health is here, and if you changed X, you'd feel Y. What are some of the reasons why you haven't? What are some of the barriers there? What are some of the things that are keeping you from doing these things that you just told me would make you feel differently, would make you feel better? And then once we have that information, then the conversation easily rolls into, well, are you in a place where you're ready to work on some of these things? And if so, how can I help you? Right? So it's a really nice way to kind of take that information that we know drives longevity and has super huge negative effects. 200% increase in all-cause mortality risk if you believe your health is poor. Then we can use that information to dive a bit deeper into the patient, figure out why they believe their health is poor, what they believe would need to change, and then help guide them to make those changes. So that's pretty powerful stuff. And that's kind of in the behavior realm and then in the health mindset realm. But what about exercise, right? Because as physical therapists, we're really dialed into exercise, human activity, movement, and we really want to drive humans forward on this exercise path. And we have lots of really good information, really good guidelines into what things we should be doing, right? We know that that from an exercise standpoint, healthy behavior says 150 minutes a week from the old guidelines of moderate to vigorous activity. That's it. Or the newer guidelines, 150 minutes of moderate cardiovascular activity or 75 minutes or more of vigorous cardiovascular activity and at least 2 strength training days a week is what humans need every week. So we know this stuff. We know what is enough here. Now we also know that only about 25% of Americans actually hit those targets, which leaves 75% that don't. We also know that 25% of Americans have zero activity whatsoever, and about 10% of all healthcare costs can be attributed to lack of physical activity. Like, this is crazy stuff. But what about the people that are doing enough, just don't think about it, just don't think they are? How does that play into it? Really nice study by Zahart in 2016, looking at, took data out of a bunch of different samples and looked at 61,000 Americans, tracked them over 21 years, and held all things constant. So matched them for age, matched them for activity level, matched them for comorbid status, psychological status. Again, I'm gonna hit this really hard. Matched them for activity level. The only variable was this. Do you believe that you exercise more or less than your peers? And when you compared the people that believe they exercise less than their peers to the people that believe they exercise more than their peers, with all things being equal, the people that believe they exercise less had a 70% increased risk in all-cause mortality. This is absolutely fascinating. They were doing the same amount of stuff. They were the same age. They were the same socioeconomic status. They were the same psychological status. They were the same comorbid status. They just believed they weren't doing enough. And that was enough to make them have a significantly increased risk of all-cause mortality. Ladies and gentlemen, that's huge. The bottom line here is this. It's not just enough to do enough. You also have to believe that you are doing enough. And I think that we do a really good job of assessing lifestyle behaviors and diet and exercise and activity levels and what humans are doing. But I think that we could also dive a little bit deeper into this realm as to how they feel about what they're doing, how they feel about the things that they're accomplishing. Do they believe that they're doing enough? Do they believe that it's healthful? Do they believe that it's positive? Do they believe that it's negative? And when we identify those beliefs, we should absolutely work to change those as well. I'm not saying that's everything. I'm not saying that humans don't need to do stuff. They just need to think they're doing enough. We need both. So as we get into the clinic and as we start to assess patients' health, how do you feel about your health? Good, fair, poor, excellent. Tell me about your activity levels. Tell me about your sleep, your stress, your diet, all the stuff that we're already assessing. We should also dive a little bit deeper. Take it one more step further and figure out, how do you feel about those things? Do you feel like you're doing enough? What would make you feel like you were doing enough? What do you feel like you're missing? How do we shift you to make you feel more positive about your health, about your lifestyle, about your behaviors? A happy human is a healthy human. Somebody who has self-confidence, somebody who believes that the things they're doing are positive, are someone that lives longer than the people that believe they're not, when all things are held equal. We even have research that says just being optimistic significantly reduces the incidence of severe cardiovascular events. It's insane. Mindset is such a powerful thing. We absolutely should be assessing it, asking the right questions, driving the patients to better health behaviors, but also making sure that we're driving the patient to better health beliefs. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening. Hopefully the power comes on soon. Otherwise, hope you all have an awesome day in the clinic.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.